Hi, everybody. Welcome to Academy on Air. This month, we're going to be talking about TrueView. This is YouTube's most popular ad format. And I am Eli Reiger, an account manager at Google, and I'm going to be your Sherpa helping you to ascend TrueView Mountain. So feel free to add questions in the discussion board while I'm talking. We're going to be addressing them at the end of the presentation. Please note, you don't have to take notes. We're going to be sending a PDF of the presentation to you afterwards, so just tune right in, pay close attention. So we're going to start talking today about what TrueView is and how it works before diving into more of the specifics. For the purpose of today's chat, we're going to talk about the ad format pictured above. This is called TrueView in-stream. This is your standard pre-roll ad, meaning that it appears before a video. TrueView also has a discovery product that functions more like YouTube search, but we're going to cover that in another day. TrueView in-stream works by showing an ad in front of a video that people are coming to YouTube to watch. After 5 seconds, a skip button is going to appear in the bottom right. This gives users the ability to skip the ad if they're no longer interested in watching. What this creates is this really interesting self-selecting audience of people who want to continue watching your ad. On average, about 20% of people will watch a TrueView ad through the billing event. The billing event is when an advertiser actually pays at 30 seconds or the end of the video. This system of serving an ad that users have the option to watch gives users the best experience, so they keep coming back to YouTube. Advertisers only pay for the most qualified self-selecting audience, and then the advertisers pay Google for that qualified audience. So it's something that really works out best for all parties involved. Since there's only one ad slot, we need to choose which ad is going to appear. Seconds before an ad loads, YouTube's going to decide which ad to serve based on 2 factors. The chance that someone will watch the video multiplied by an advertiser's max willingness to pay. In this case, you can see that there's different chances that someone's going to watch the ad and different max willingness to pay. In this case, all 3 ads have an equal chance of appearing. The chance that someone will watch your ad is actually a function of the audience, of the targeting, but mainly, and in most cases, about 70% of the ad itself. The max willingness to pay is totally in the advertiser's control. So if you wanted your ad to appear in this instance, all you would have to do is bid slightly higher, even by 1 cent to win the ad slot. Now we get into the specifics of how to set up a TrueView campaign. TrueView campaigns are set up in the AdWords interface. If you already have an account for your search campaigns, it's really easy to run a campaign in the same account. If you need to separate the account for billing purposes, then you should create another account, and if you have a Google contact, they can help you with this, no problem. Once you're in the Campaigns tab of your AdWords account, you want to click the red campaign button and select Video Campaign. This will take you to the campaign settings. This is where you'll name the campaign, determine the geography, and do a few other things. I'll walk you through the most important factors. The first is your bidding type. You're always going to want to run TrueView on a max cost per view, or CPV, or cost per view. This is TrueView's billing format and refers to the moment when a user reaches 30 seconds or the end of the video, whichever comes first. The second is your daily budget. This is the amount of money you're willing to spend for a given day. Make sure that your total budget is divided carefully so that your daily budget doesn't exceed your total budget over the duration of your entire campaign. The number of people who will view your ad per day will roughly be equal to the daily budget divided by your average cost per view. For the purposes of figuring out how many people are going to see your ad in a day, assume a CPV of 10 to 12 cents for estimating purposes. I mentioned off the top that TrueView has 2 formats. TrueView in-stream and discovery. This is where you choose which format you want to run. TrueView discovery is on YouTube search, and TrueView in-stream is on YouTube videos and video partners on the display network. This field, YouTube partners on the display network, refers to other websites that use the YouTube infrastructure to run their video ads. You can serve advertisements on websites like CNN, Crack.com, and a host of others. These videos will always be large player, so they're never going to be in-banner videos, and they typically expand the reach of your campaign while lowering your average cost per view in the range of about 30%. The most important thing to keep an eye on is the advanced settings at the bottom. Lots of brand campaigns are flighted for budget reasons. If your campaign happens to be flighted, make sure you select the start and end date. This will allow your campaign to not run over the given dates. That's really important if you're recurring credit card billing. You're also allowed to select a frequency cap. Now, you don't need a frequency cap because, like I said, it's a self-selecting format, but I like to expand the reach of my YouTube campaign, so I like to set a max frequency of 1 per day. Internal research actually shows that you can serve an ad to someone 8 times in a given week without diminishing the impact of ad exposure. Most specifically, the first 6 exposures have the greatest increase in ad recall after each successive ad exposure. So setting your frequency cap at about 1 per week, a maximum of 1 per week, makes a lot of sense. After you finish with campaign settings, you move on to targeting and ad setup. Ad setup is pretty self-explanatory, but the one thing I must note is your video must be uploaded to YouTube in order to run as TrueView. Once that's done, you get to the targeting portion. You can target by age, by gender, by parental status, by browsing interest, by contextual targeting, either by specific keywords or broad topics. You can target specific videos, and you can target your remarketing list. There's no end of targeting options. The best practice for YouTube is to select the broadest audience possible of people who can potentially buy your product. This will give you the most exposure at the lowest cost per exposure. So if you're a women's shoe company, for example, your best targeting is people who are shopping for shoes. But realistically, adult women everywhere your store is or that your store ships to could potentially be your audience. And if you target that second audience of people who could potentially buy your product, you're actually going to include a lot of people who are actually in market for your audience, in market for shoes at the same time. So depending on your budget, it makes sense to go for the broadest possible audience. When you add different targeting types, demographic and interest, demographic and keywords together, you'll serve at the intersection of those targets. So see the bottom example, it's, in my opinion, far too narrow. You're looking for women who have demonstrated online purchase behavior to buy shoes who happen to be looking at YouTube videos of shoes. I can tell you from experience that the number of people who fit that criteria is under 12. So it's best practice to create multiple ad groups which all work under the same frequency cap and with different kinds of targeting. So one ad group can be women plus in market for shoes, while another ad group can be women plus shoe keywords, people watching content for shoes. All of those are under the same campaign, and so you can't hit the user more than once per day because they're all contained under the same frequency cap. On the right-hand side is a tool called Traffic Estimator. It will always tell you if your targeting is going to be sufficiently broad to reach the number of people you want to reach. It will also estimate, based on your max willingness to pay, your estimated average cost per view, and total number of views per day or per week. My rule of thumb is to make sure that Traffic Estimator is always green. Otherwise, adjust your max cost per view or your targeting to make it more broad. So now we're going to track the metrics that matter. You can see that most of the metrics that matter can be found in the Campaigns tab of AdWords. If everything is zeros, once you start running your campaign, don't immediately panic. I've done this a lot of times before. Go to the top right, and you can see to check that the campaign timing at the top right is set to the correct period. That will usually solve your problem. Impressions, views, and view rate are a measure of how many people were shown your ad, how many people chose to watch it, and at what rate. This is a simple determinant of how engaged people are with your video. The benchmark for Canada tends to be between 12 and 22% of people on average watching your video to 30 seconds or the end of the video, whichever comes first. The longer an ad tends to be, the lower, however, the view rate tends to be, and there's a couple of reasons why that happens. But in terms of determining how engaged your audience is, it makes sense to take your view rate and compare it to the benchmark average. Average cost per view and cost are determinants of how much it costs to reach your audience. You can specifically control these factors. This is important because if your daily spend is too low or your max CPV is too high, you can always adjust it by changing your max cost per view, your daily budget, or the breadth of your targeting. Cost per views don't really have benchmarks because they're heavily dependent on targeting. Demographic targeting, though, will often come in at an 8 to 10 cent range, while remarketing targeting will come in at a 15 to 20 cent range to give you a basis of estimation. Finally, you can add traditional ad metrics like clicks and conversions to measure online conversion, though I should note that view-through conversion is the most accurate attributable direct metric. That's because only about 0.5% of people actually click on TrueView ads. So the click-through conversion rate tends to be very, very low. But the traffic you get from people being exposed to your ad and coming back online or in store later or coming through organic search usually increases after TrueView ad exposure. YouTube's an upper funnel metric, meaning it's impacting a wide audience of people and making them slightly more familiar with your brand, your business offering, or telling the story of your product's key attributes. TrueView's proven to push people down the marketing funnel, but it is an upper funnel tactic. So it makes sense to pair this with display and search in order to drive people all the way down through the funnel. And this is where remarketing is really, really powerful. So What should you take away? TrueView is Google's skippable video option where advertisers only pay when users actually watch the ad. Whether your ad appears is a function of max cost per view and view rate, and you control the targeting of the video and the max cost per view. Always make sure the traffic estimator is green so the campaign actually serves. And if it's not, adjust one of these factors. And you can measure all standard metrics in the AdWords interface, but remember that video influences minds and is more likely to increase brand equity than to lead to immediate sales. So know that when you're comparing it against search or against display. If you still have questions, we've included links at the bottom of this presentation. You'll be able to click out to those when we send the PDF along. And now I'm going to take some questions. So I'm going to go really quickly through the questions. We're going to start with the top one. Do you need to create specific videos for TrueView to get users to keep watching? Now, the short answer is no. TrueView is a wonderfully flexible ad format because it actually allows you to upload videos of any length, which is really, really interesting. You can have videos that are as short as 11 seconds. I actually once ran a video that was 2 hours long. I would not recommend that. But the real answer is create videos, if you can, that take as long to tell the story as humanly possible. What we found is that people aren't more engaged with videos that are shorter or longer. They are more engaged, or the most engaged, with videos that actually take the appropriate amount of time to tell the story that they're trying to tell. So that's kind of my best practice in terms of ad length. The second question we've got is how much budget do you need to run TrueView? This depends on your budget a little bit and the size of your audience. So I go back to the women's shoe example. The women's shoe example, in an ideal world, you influence everybody who is the potential universe of buying your shoes, which are women who can buy women's shoes and a handful of other people who buy women's shoes, and who are specifically located in an area that your store can serve. That's the broadest possible audience. And if you can influence all those people, amazing. But if you don't have the budget to influence all those people, then start shrinking down to the largest but most attributable audience that you can reach for your budget. And then use those frequency exposure numbers as a best practice for your average exposure frequency. Third question is, what's a first step recommendation for an agency going from custom videos to video packages? The custom video packages including ad spend being designed for TrueView, kind of a specifically TrueView ad environment. Let me take a second to read the background of this question. Okay, so it's what's the recommendation for using TV spots versus stuff that's specifically made for TrueView? So this is where you can get a little bit tactical. When you run TrueView, you can capture a remarketing audience of people who have been exposed to and chosen to watch the ad. And that's where I like to use either display or remarketing list for search to push people down the funnel. But TrueView can also be a really interesting tactic for pushing people down the funnel. So people who are exposed to your TV spot and chose to watch it actually make a great audience for people to serve kind of a 10, 15, 30-second hit that has a very, very specific call to action. But beyond that, my recommendation actually is to test and optimize. TrueView is a wonderful platform for that, where you can upload multiple ad creatives, and then you can test their effect both on view rate, people's likeliness to watch the creative, and on kind of other metrics like brand lift, if you can do it, and clicks and conversions to site. And then if you've got everything set up properly, kind of follow on searches. So I say my best recommendation is to put everything in the campaign at the same time and see kind of what rises to the top. Do we have any more questions? All right, so if people have any more questions, feel free to drop them in. I'm going to be following up, answering anybody's questions. But for now, thank you very much for joining Academy on Air. I've been Eli Reiger, and it was nice to talk to you. Bye, everybody.